Usually, I always speak on car or standing. But today, as a 82-year-old person, this morning, through helicopter, go there, and there, I very much impressed. Large number of gathering there. However, quite hot. so a little bit tired. So I want to seek permission from the audience. Speak. Sitting on chair. Okay. So in hot climate, and humidity, I usually have this special hat. Cool water, very good, very comfortable. Respected elder brothers and elder sisters and rest of the brothers and sisters. I always use this word, brothers, sisters. I have certain reason. Wherever I talk, I always say, start, brothers, sisters. Reason. Today's world, even I think in the past also, particularly now, today's world, a lot of problem. Some major disaster. That is beyond our control. But many problems, mainly violence, killing, and also starvation due to negligence. And also you see huge gap, rich and poor. All this we created. We human beings ourselves created these problems. So then, either we just ignore all these problems. So long you individual not facing threat, direct threat, then just ignore. Or make some effort. I think while one human being dying here due to violence or due to starvation, any sensible human being cannot ignore. So therefore, it is, I think, totally wrong, ignore or remain indifferent to these problems. Then the next question, whether we can do something or not. Now, some scientists, you see, they mentioned through their investigation, basic human nature is more compassionate. There are sort of sufficient reasons. 7 billion human beings all come from their mother. As soon as born, the child sight, no idea who's that person, mother or this, no idea. Yet, biologically, as soon as born, immediately, you see, feeling of very closeness, very close to mother. Mother side also, immediately, you see, taking care the child. almost part of her own body. That's our life start. Then obviously, people who received maximum affection in the early, say after birth, next, you see, few years, the mother's affection and parents' affection and friends of affection is key factor for to proper growth. They are physical. Some scientists, you see, found after birth, next few weeks, mother's physical touch is the key factor for proper enlargement of brain, or proper development of our brain. So, you see the affection. So then those people who received maximum affection at that period, I think the rest of their life, in deep inside, much more happier. Those children who lacks that kind of sort of affection from their mother, such as sort of unwanted unwanted children, then no matter how outwardly more successful, but in deep inside, fear there. So that person whole life remain some fear, and to other people some kind of distrust. So therefore, the basic human nature, so these are the reasons. And then also you see the scientists, medical scientists, you see they found constant fear, constant anger is actually eating our immune system. More surrounded by compassion and trusted people, surrounded by trusted people, full of affection, then the immune system maintain. Some cases even increase. So this, not talking about next life or heaven, simply how to create happy life, healthy body. So now this is scientifically. Now you see they say, as I mentioned earlier, the basic human nature is more compassionate. That is the basis. We can promote human love, human affection. If basic human nature is anger, then not much hope. Maybe better to pray to God, if there is Creator, and pray to God, please now, today, close humanity. I have had sort of many years, I think more than 20 years ago, one Cuban sort of refugee I met, they come to see me, a very, very religious-minded person. So he told me, he always go to church, pray to God. And then one part of his prayer, he mentioned to me, pray to God, the Fidel Castro, Fidel Castro. Because of his rule, many Cubans escaped. So this was one of them. So he told me, he prayed to God, please bring Fidel Castro to heaven sooner the better. This I think nice. In a way, he disliked Fidel Castro. but he prayed to God, bring to heaven. That's nice, isn't it? So I think if basic human nature is anger, then I think firstly, I think we should complain to God, why you create that kind of nature. Other hand, I think we pray to God, please bring humanity to his own sort of the heaven. Okay, but as I mentioned earlier, basic human nature is more compassionate. Another factor, we are social animals. Even other animals, those social animals, they have some limited altruism, each other, take care of each other, because individual animals' survival depend on the rest of the herds. So we human beings also is a social animal. No matter how sort of big Raja or big spiritual leader remains single, cannot survive. Maybe some through miracle or maybe, but nobody see that. So therefore, see, each individual, no matter how sort of because of the highly spiritual, because of spiritual development or something, but for survival, depend on society. Individual's future entirely depend on the society, the community. So therefore, social animal friendship is very essential. In order to develop friendship, trust is the key factor. In order to develop trust, if you just remain too much selfish, then other people, I think, very difficult to trust. So first, you should show them your altruistic attitude, sense of concern of their well-being, then trust comes. So therefore, these reasons, we can develop human compassion. Human compassion. Now there are different levels. I think in general, 7 billion human beings. So therefore, and now the way to promote human affection, human compassion, number one, the secular way, not through religious belief. Secular way means entirely depend on scientific finding, then our common sense and common experience. Common experience, we all come from our mother. Common sense, when you look your neighbor, those neighbor may be poor, but full of affection. In the family, full of sort of affection each other. Then that family, very happy. Anyone who enter that family, materially may be poor, but full of love, you feel happy. Another your neighbor, very rich, big cars and big building. People who live in that big building distrust each other, a little bit jealousy each other. So that family never be happy family. So trust is key factor. So therefore, use these reasons. Use common experience, already there. Common sense, properly use common sense, then scientific finding. Through that way, we can teach human brothers, sisters, particularly children, in our existing education system, not, I think, very much oriented about material value. So existing materialistic education, not adequate, you see, to pay more attention about this inner value. But not through religious way, strictly secular way. So through that way, you see, that way of approach, you see, can cover entire 7 billion human beings. If the way of promotion, love and compassion, through religious belief, through religious tradition, then today about 7 billion, out of 7 billion, around 1 billion human being, non-believer. So, we have to find ways and means to educate about our inner value, that is human compassion, through secular way, then we can cover, we can reach entire 7 billion human beings. My own case, firstly, my mother, very, very kind. My mother, I think her children, we never saw our mother's angry face, always showing care, affection. My father, not like that. Occasionally, my father used to mustache. So I think the way to expression my love. So sometimes I do this. My father's was a mustache. Then he easily lose temper and beat me. So I don't like my father. So that's my first experience. I always say, telling people, my first guru who teach me love, affection, is my mother. Then I use common sense extensively. I always say, consider myself another human being. When I consider I'm just another human being, it's very easy to reach out other human being, including beggar. I always say, treat them as another human being, human brothers, sisters. I never consider I'm something special. In early my life, I acting like other people used to put me on throne and you see consider something very holy person. So then isolate. Lonely feeling. If I consider emphasis, I am His Holiness Dalai Lama, then out of 7 billion, only one Dalai Lama, then I feel lonely. So, when I consider myself as another human being, the 7 billion human beings are my brothers, sisters. Wherever I go, I always say, talk, teasing. I often use smiling. So if the other side, most cases, when I smiling, they also respond smile. Some cases, not smiling, still remain like that. Then I do this. Then a smile comes. So, it's my own experience. I'm considered another human being, and consider importance of human love, human affection. That gives me immense benefit. If I remain something holy person, and you yourself isolated, as a human being, you never be happy person. Okay. So I use common sense, common experience, and then meeting with scientists. Over 30 years, I have serious discussion with scientists. Usually I describe myself half Buddhist monk, half scientist. So through these sort of discussion with scientists, it convinced me, basic human nature is compassionate. We can promote human love, human compassion through education, not through prayer. Okay. So I very much impressed the Chief Minister of the state. He creates a separate department for happiness. Oh, wonderful. Really wonderful. This morning, we spent a few moments, some talk, his sort of, his effort, his thinking. I really sort of appreciate. And at meantime, because of the teaching him, happiness can buy from the supermarket. So happiness must develop here. Some billionaire, some my friend, some American billionaire, very rich, but as a human being, very unhappy human being. So now, the department, I think, should carry more research work. How to teach from kindergarten up to university level, how to develop. Here, I feel, you see, basic human nature is compassionate, that's basic thing, basis. Then, compassion, love, mainly from our heart. Love from heart. Other social animals also have that. Now, since we have this intelligence, this brain, something very unique, so this brain should use to further strengthening our love, which comes from heart. So the existing so-called modern education, very much oriented about material value, not much pay attention about our love or inner value. So now, like your government or state government, now have to sort of carry some research work, how to teach. Although some American university and also in some university in India, also some sort of NGO, we already sort of committed making a draft curriculum of, you see, the warm-heartedness or compassion. I think within this year, I think the first draft may materialize. So we are working strictly secular way, not based on religion. So this is the fundamental way to promotion of love or affection. Now another level, way to promote love, compassion. Then spiritual level. All major religious tradition, no matter theistic religion or non-theistic religion, that means, you see, those religions which have the concept of creator, that usually, you see, the theistic religion. And then like Jainism, Buddhism, no concept of creator, but rather self-creation. That's non-theistic religion. So, irrespective theistic or non-theistic religion, all carry the same message of love. And in order to protect practice of love or feeling of love, it is very important forgiveness, tolerance, and then also you see desire. Sometimes you see creates suspicion or anger, frustration, these things. So the contentment, practice of contentment. Then all these are inner quality. Therefore, self-discipline is the key factor. So all major religious tradition talking these things. So that means I often used to telling, all these religions are human beings' religion. Therefore, all religion naturally carrying the main message is love, compassion. So all major religious traditions, you see, have same potential. Use different philosophical views or different concepts, such as a theistic religion use the concept of God. Nobody say God is full of anger. Nobody say that. God full of love, infinite love. So, like Christianity or Islam or Judaism, and also I think Zoroastrianism, and some sort of ancient Indian sort of religion who believe the Creator, all describe Creator is infinite love. Our life created by such sort of infinite love. So we are children of such compassionate Father. And this very life created by God, no concept of previous life or life after life, many lives, these theistic religion. So this very life created by God. So, very powerful. Our loving sort of Father, beloved, our sort of beloved sort of Father is infinite love. So we are children of such Father. We must sort of keep compassion. Like that. So very powerful. That is the basis of religious harmony. Mutual respect. If possible, mutual learning. That is the foundation of religious harmony. Bharat, this country, I think over 2,000 years, besides homegrown religion, from outside, Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Christian, Islam, come from outside, but remain in this country, I think very basically very harmoniously, respect each other. I think that is something unique. No other country, that kind of thing. In this country, I think over 2,000 years, all these major religious traditions live together. Occasionally some problem. Here and there. That's mainly politicians. So that also is understandable. About billion populated nation, billion human being. So there must be some mischievous people, must be there. Otherwise not human being, human society. So it is understandable. Some mischievous sort of human being always there, so create some unnecessary problem. Basically India, I always admire the Parsi. In Bombay, their population less than 100,000, very small. Among the millions of Christian, Hindus, Muslim, very small community, but no fear, very happy. Many of these Parsi people from Parsi community, I think very successful, like I think Tata Parsi, and Field Marshal Khasa, Manekshaw, also Parsi. So I think the example, very small population, come from ancient Persia, Iran. But they are, I think the oldest refugee. We are quite youngest. So I think in this country, they settle, no fear. So that's, I think, example of India. All major religious traditions can live together. This, now time come, you, my Indian brothers, sisters, now should show outside world different traditions can live together. While in some Arab countries now Shia and Sunni fighting, meaningless. Both following Quran and 5 times prayer, they do same. So, due to small differences, then you see fighting. Unthinkable. And then Egypt, Christian, Muslim, some problems, and quite a number of areas, these problems there. So I think India's almost 3,000 years, or at least 2,000 years, all these major world religious traditions live together. This must show to these countries, different religious faith can live together. So, if we seriously practice or follow one's own tradition, one's own religious faith, all have same potential to produce compassionate human being. All major world religions, we can, you see, we can look all major religious traditions at 3 aspects. One aspect is religion, or maybe dharma. One aspect is philosophy. Philosophy. Third aspect is certain sort of cultural aspect, certain tradition. First part, no need to change. All carry same message of love, as I mentioned earlier. Second part, philosophy. There are a lot of differences. Within theistic religion, there are differences. According to Islam, one Allah. Christianity, Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, like that. Then Judaism, I don't know. I don't know much. So in any way, you see, in philosophical field, there are differences. Then, as I mentioned before, theistic, their sort of main faith is creator. The non-theistic, no such concept. So big differences. And Jainism, Buddhism, non-theistic religion, but Jainism and Sankhyaism accept Atma. Buddhism, Anatma. So there are differences. Within Buddhism, Vibhashik, Sautrantic, Chitta Mantra, Madhyamika, four major different schools of thought. The concept about Anatma, there are differences. So in philosophical field, there's a lot of differences. But then we have to ask, what is the purpose of this different philosophy? Same purpose, to strengthening practice of love. So no problem. Like medicine, different medicine, same purpose to cure illness. So no problem. And also, you see, I never say one religion is best religion. I never state that. I am Buddhist. I never state Buddhism is best religion. So, religion, like medicine, according the patient's sort of condition, for this patient, this medicine is best. Similarly, among the people who have different mental disposition, accordingly, for this religion is best, most effective. For this person, a different mental disposition, for that, this religion is best. Otherwise, we cannot say, pick up one medicine and then this is medicine, best medicine. You cannot say. Similarly, religion like that. So all these different philosophy, you see, the same purpose to promote conviction about love and how to sort of strengthening practice of love. So there is no problem. Now, third aspect is a cultural aspect. So, the cultural aspect, in that aspect, I think that when these religion started or beginning, the social sort of system, social habit, some sort of effect. So some religious tradition, there is little sort of, also the discrimination. Male should be first, female second, like that. And then in this country, caste system, upper class, lower class. I think these things are, influence of social system. At that time, 2000 years ago, the social system is feudal system. Landlord, they exploit the farmers or lower class. So in order to justify their sort of rule, they eventually create, due to your karma, you born low caste. We, upper caste, we have certain right to exploit you. So that, I think the social sort of, some kind of influence from the social system. So therefore, now time come, the Indian different spiritual leaders should create a voice according sort of theistic, all human beings created same source. No sort of classes of different because race samarve, different caste system. So now I think caste system, I think out of date. We have to change these thinking. Sometimes I heard as an upper caste family cannot marry with from lower caste. Sometime few years ago in Haryana, one sort of marriage, different caste, so some even sort of violence has happened. And I heard it's some area well. Which used by upper caste, higher caste, lower caste people, the lower sort of caste people cannot drink from that water. Such things are terrible. We must change these things. So that's cultural aspect. So I think Buddha, when I was taking 1954 and 55, one occasion, Mao Zedong, you see, Mao Zedong told me, Buddha Shakyamuni was revolutionary. Reason, he totally against the caste system. It is quite true. But later, another occasion, Chairman Mao Zedong told me, your mind is very scientific minded, so very good, so religion is opium. The early part, he praised Buddha. By last meeting, he mentioned the religion is poison, like that. So in any way, even Chairman Mao Zedong, you see, who have very bad sort of because of the attitude towards religion, but he also, you see, mentioned Buddha was revolutionary because of totally against the caste system. It is quite true. Buddha clearly mentioned, according to his sort of tradition, the one arahat from lower caste. You see, the king, upper caste, must touch king's the head to the feet of one arahat from low caste. So he emphasizes in his tradition, in his teaching, no importance of caste, but important is oneself, practice well. So that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So now, in the cultural aspect, there are some sort of certain things I think we have to change. Now today's world is democracy. Everybody equal. Under law, all are equal. No meaning of caste system. That I think we must must improve or must change in that respect. For that reason, Dr. Ambedkar, I think he really made great contribution. Wonderful. Like that. Dear, in the Dragon Nyawa Korgi, Shelia, any sooner, Sujini Wina, Chikavu, Kotus. Madanya, Dajumba, Arahat. So, now lastly, I want to say a few words about Buddhist philosophy. Now, Buddhism, Buddha first sermon took place at Sanath. There he taught 4 Noble Truths and 37 practice. Tikasa.
No.
Legasir Kasa.
बोधंगे
Sanjo Sodin.
लाओ 37 प्रकार के जो बोधंगे
So that is the foundation of Buddha Dharma. That practice, concept is common. Pali tradition, Sanskrit tradition, both same. And then second Dharma wheel at Rajagiri. Last 2 days I was there, Rajagiri. Second sermon, then Paramita Sutra. Actually, out of 4 noble truths, third noble truth, Nirodha, cessation. The further sort of explanation about the very nature and also possibility to achieve Nirodha and Nirvana. That's the detailed explanation in Paramita Sutra. Usually we call Shunyata. And the real meaning of Shunyata, Patita Samupanda, interdependency. Shunyata, not nothingness, but every existence due to other factor, not by itself. So, absence of independent existence. That now modern sort of scientific sort of finding, quantum physics, quite similar. As far as external thing is concerned, nothing exists objectively. So they're very similar. One of Buddhist sort of concept. Observer there, so long observer there, object there. When observer no longer there, very difficult to say the object there. Object there. So that's Chitta Mantra's school of thought. Exactly is the same. So use that reason. There is nothing, external things exist by externally. That's Chitta Mantra sort of philosophy. Then Madhyamika philosophy, now Chitta Mantra, observer side, something absolute. Now modern scientists, those quantum physicists, they're quite sort of convinced nothing objectively exists. But then the concern of observer, no idea. So modern scientists on that level is still not very clear. In this country, in India, 2000 years ago, already, you see, these concepts developed very clearly. So, one Indian sort of scientist, nuclear physicist, Rajaramana, one occasion, you see, told me, quantum physics in the West, something new concept or new idea. In this country, Bharat, 2000 years ago, already developed this concept. So Raja Ramana, as an Indian, he expressed to me, as an Indian, he feels very proud. So the Madhyamika philosophy, ancient Indian sort of Buddhist philosophy, nothing exists by independently. Ultimately, nature is shunyata. Shunyata does not mean nothingness, but due to other factor. So, absence of independent self-existence, right? Like that. So now question is, what's that theory? Or no? What use? What connection? That theory about our inner peace. Now this is serious matter now. All the Nagarjuna stated very clearly, all negative emotion, such as attachment and anger, hatred, all these negative emotion very much based on exaggeration. Now my friend, one American scientist, he, I think, lost at least, 3-4 decades dealing or helping with those patients who mentally too much disturbed by anger. So when I first met him, his age 84. Then 2 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, I went to his own home because I sort of respect him. I very much sort of admire him. So he told me, as a result of his sort of research, when angry person develop anger, object which that person feel angry appears very negative, but 90% of that negativeness is mental projection. This is exactly Nagarjuna stated. And if we sort of examine cleverly, clever. If we sort of watching when we develop anger, everyone have the experience anger, isn't it? I think no one who haven't experience of anger, no, I don't think. Anyone, including myself. So therefore, when anger develops, one part of your mind, your intelligence, try to watch. When anger there, the object appears very negative. Then anger reduce the same object, but looks different, isn't it? So it is quite clearly sort of, a clear indication. Anger really creates much exaggeration, mental projection. So now, how develop that exaggeration is, you see, the concept we grasping. Things exist as appears. Appearance from objectively. But the reality, like quantum physics, investigate, nothing objectively exists. Right, objective, right. So the Madhyamika philosophy. Now, for example, when you look at me, you easily say, oh, I'm looking Dalai Lama. Then further question, you only merely seeing Dalai Lama's body and hearing Dalai Lama's voice. And then, some extent, you can read Dalai Lama's mind. Then, the body, speech, mind, whose body, whose, also the voice, whose mind? Dalai Lama. Then where is Dalai Lama? Nothing. You're also seeing Dalai Lama's body. You see, as appears, there is Dalai Lama's body. If you investigate, body is
Parts.
As a whole. So part, head, hand, stomach, go like that. So if you separate head, hand, leg, stomach, where is Dalai Lama's body? Further goes genes, particles, furthest atom, quarks, no body. know the body? Nothing. So there is a big gap, appearance and reality. All these negative emotion develop on exaggeration, exaggeration develop on appearances. If we develop full conviction, it does not exist as appears, the reality is nothing, just a mere designation. When we understand, you see, that the very basis of exaggeration, then shaking, then attachment, anger become very weak. In that respect, I also some sort of experience. Last 50, 60 years, sort of was a thinking, meditation. So now here meditation, not just shamatha, but vipassana, analytical meditation, analyze. Like scientists, so they investigate. And Buddha stated, "Oh, my follower, bhikshus, scholars should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment." Therefore, like Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti, you see, these great philosophers, some of Buddha's own sort of text, Buddha's own sort of word, they reject it. If we accept this, it goes against reason. Therefore, you see, we have to reject. So myself, as a follower of Nagarjuna, some sort of Nalenda's masters of writing, like Vasubandhu's, the Abhidhammakosha Karika, the third chapter explains about world or nonsense. Flat world, in the center, Mount Meru, and the sun and the moon, same level, and go round. So therefore, Buddhist thinking, particularly Sanskrit tradition, we use extensively logic. Even Buddha's word, logically examine. Then if there is some contradiction, we reject. I think that's quite unique. I think no other spiritual tradition, religious tradition, you see, that kind of approach. It's simply the emphasis, my word is final word, you must accept that. Isn't it? Buddha differently. So, even as Einstein, he expressed, in future, modern science, because among the religions, Buddhism can go with science. It is quite true. So this does not mean Buddhism is best religion. No. To some people, concept of God is much effective, much effective. So those people feel much effective. You should follow that tradition. So actually, religious faith is rather private business. Someone believe that, find more suitable, so believe that. Someone find this way of approach is more acceptable, more suitable, then follow that. That's private business. We Tibetan, like Jewish people, almost like chosen people. Some, my friend, some scientists, Jews, but they follow Buddhism. So they not yet now chosen people. We Tibetan also supposed to chosen people, but among Tibetan there are Muslims, there are Christians, there are non-believers. Okay, no problem. This religion is individual business. So now, here are some Buddhist monk. Now please pay more attention for study. It's very essential. Just Buddham Shanam Gacchami, Dhammam Shanam Gacchami, Sangham Shanam Gacchami is not sufficient. We should know what is Dharma. It's Nirodha and mark. That two things out of four noble truths. The third, kasa, Nirodha. Fourth, mark. In order to know these two truths, later part of two truths, unless you know the Shunyata, Anathma theory, very difficult to understand. Nagarjuna, in order to explain about Shunyata, he used the reason Paticca So please, those Buddhist monks, please pay more attention for study. Our Tibetan tradition, in order to become one good scholar, at least you need 20, 30 years study. The root text memorize, including myself. When I was very young, and ceremony, they put me on throne. But when I study, my teacher showed me whip. So I think the Tibetan, they're quite practical. In a ceremonial way, you just put there. Actual study, they treated me like ordinary sort of student. Yeah. So I jokingly was telling, when I study at young age, I think 6, 7, and 8, 9, so these years, these are age. My elder brother also used to study with me. So my tutor kept 2 whips. One whip ordinary, that's to my elder brother. One whip, yellow whip, that's supposed to this holy student, holy person. But I know if holy whip use, no difference of holy pain. So out of fear, I carry some study. But I have great reluctance to study, memorizing these things. So, Tibetan tradition, as Shantarakshita introduced, we seriously study. My own case, 30 years study. And then after I reached India, 59, I still study. Even these days, now 82-year-old person, whenever I have time, I always read, think. So, the Buddhist monk, especially those young people, should study more. Rajama Sakala Skasa. Rajama Sakala. Maybe Sakadeva. Sakala. Rajama Sakala. Disundua. Someday Logway Ladagi, Lulu Ningulancha. Mumi Chansam Ti Chobe, Samba Namia Mijos. Rajama Sakala, do you call this? So now conclusion. So therefore, in order to promotion compassion, there are different levels for common people, including non-believer, then among the believer, then among the believer, Buddhist, the Pali tradition and the Sanskrit tradition. Pali tradition mainly relying on words, Buddha's quotation. Sanskrit tradition extensively use logic. So for that, it is very, very important for study. And we Tibetan usually carry debate very seriously, like that. So that's my talk. Now some questions.
Please tell us something about mindfulness and how can we practice in our daily life, and something about association with the present moment. Thank you.
Okay.
I think very nature of our mind, see, the critical thinking there, that at the use of critical thinking, that is vipassana, not just a single-pointed sort of meditation. So I think Sanskrit word, previous vipassana. The second, shamatha. So now, I think the shamatha is simply trying to trying to increase mental power to concentrate fully on one point. That is shamatha. Once channelize your mental strength, focusing one object, then further investigation. What is the nature of that thing? As I already mentioned, I think the shamatha very much related with on the generally speaking, you see, focusing on the object. Now vipassana analyze what is the nature of object. So effective method or emotion is analytical meditation. So, for example, anger comes. What's the use of anger? Anger, I think, bring some kind of extra energy, isn't it? When you're not anger developed, then more polite. When anger comes, you ready to hit. But that energy, extra energy, I usually call blind energy. Not at all useful, helpful. Otherwise, the anger, no use. If there is certain thing, you try to you try to solve that thing. Without anger, through gentle way, through reasoning, you can solve the problem more effectively. So like that, thinking anger, what use? Then eventually you develop, anger is never useful, nothing. Only destroy your peace of mind. And worst thing, when anger develops, they are our brain ability to judge what is right, what is wrong, what is long-term interest, short-term interest. That's our unique ability of human brain. In order to carry that, your mind must be unbiased. So anger, serious obstacle about that. When anger develops, your mind never be unbiased, just extreme way. So that's, I think, worst thing is our, I think, unique thing, our sort of brain, which develop common sense. There, the basis of common sense, your mind must be calm, or objective, unbiased. Then you can analyze the situation more realistic way. Through that way, you can see the thing more objectively. So, analytical meditation is very important. But for that, single-pointed mind also necessary. Otherwise, this moment, our mind always scattered. So that should channelize. Once you see your strength or your mind to investigate increase, then analytical meditation, vipassana. So mindfulness, I think, because of the refer both shamatha and kasajuti, vipassana. My own sort of experience, vipassana, analytical meditation is much more helpful. Okay, next question. Yes.
My question is, sir, that over the many years, many decades, you have been carrying a message of peace throughout the world. Do you find any change in the world community with regard to getting on to the peace, or is it getting from bad to worst as on today?
Not necessarily sort of my sort of what's the suggestions, but I think actual experience now brought, I think, people strong feeling for peace. Look, European Union, European continent, First World War, Second World War, immense suffering. For example, German, French, 2 centuries fighting. One of my friends, the nuclear physicist, the quantum physicist, one German professor, von Weizsäcker, he told me that's in 1990s. He told me when he was young, German eye, French is their enemy. Similarly, French eye, German is their enemy. That kind of attitude, when we discuss the 1990s, he says, nowadays, that kind of attitude completely changed. So European Union started mainly by German Chancellor Adenauer and French President de Gaulle. During wartime, arch enemy. So these are the clear indication. European people during war, immense suffering. Nothing sort of useful. So they, instead of separate nation, separate independent, so the people willingness, you see, the sovereign sort of right, important, but not so important. Common interest is more important. So, in the European continent, I think desire for peace, very strong. And then Japan, suffer. Even, you see, 2 nuclear weapons on Japanese people's head. They suffer. Hiroshima, Nagasaki. I have been there. So the desire for peace, and particularly anti-nuclear, very strong. Look, in early part of 20th century, when nation declared war, every citizen of that nation, without slightest question, proudly joined war effort. Now that kind of mental attitude completely changed. since Vietnam War. So these are people themselves, human beings themselves. You see, through difficult experience, they use properly human intelligence. Now they desire for peace. I think much, much strong. There are some individuals, some leaders, of course, that's individual. But at the public level, the desire for peace is much, much stronger. So, anyway, I take opportunity for that. So, I always sit telling people, peace through inner peace. Full of anger here. World peace is just a lip service. Genuine peace must come through inner peace. That I usually say telling. The Mahatma Gandhi ji, ahimsa, you see, propagated. Wonderful. Now I, as a follower of Mahatma Gandhi ji, you see, further sort of, also the serving, the firstly, compassion. Compassion automatically create non-violent activities, full of jealousy, sense of competition, anger, ahimsa, difficult. China, when we say, you see, like India or China, we must think people of China. Now today, during Cultural Revolution, all spiritual tradition deliberately destroyed, particularly Buddhism heavily suffer, including Tibet. Now today, in China, Buddhist population around 400 millions. Many of these Buddhists, generally educated people. I think now Buddhism developed this country. China, one time, destroyed Buddhism. But now, Buddhist population is concerned, China is bigger than India. So things are changing. But then there are Chinese people, like Indian people. But there's some leaders, and including politicians, in Chinese case, communist politicians, their mind, narrow-minded.
I have to request, in
Yes.
Buddhism, there are two sects.
What?
In Buddhism, there are two sects, Hinayana and Mahayana. To which one should follow and why?
Kasa. Just, I think, yesterday, and also day before yesterday, I mentioned the International Buddhist Conference at Nalanda. I mentioned the previously, you see, people used the word Mahayana and Hinayana. That's wrong. The sort of proper word description is Pali tradition, Sanskrit tradition. As I mentioned earlier, Pali tradition on the basis of first the Dharma wheel. Second, the Sanskrit tradition, second Dharma wheel at Rajagiri. Then, you see, some people say Buddha never taught in Sanskrit. But some people say, like including Nagarjuna, they say they believe Buddha also taught Sanskrit. So, Sanskrit tradition, most of Nalanda masters, they are top scholar of Sanskrit tradition. That does not mean, you see, they leave it back. They left sort of so-called Hinayana or Pali tradition. Study Pali tradition. And then further sort of further develop or special emphasis on reason, logic, pramana. So Dharmakirti wrote Pramana Vartika Karika. The main essence of that sort of book is Praman, logic. So in Sanskrit tradition, extensively use logic. The Nagarjuna's Madhyamika Mulakarika, 27 chapters. Each chapter use reason, not Buddha's quotation. Some time back, I met some scholars as well as some bhikshus from Thailand. In Bangkok, there is Buddhist university. Some professors, some sort of bhikshus from that university came to see me. Of course, we have regular sort of meeting. I asked, you see, 37 sort of practice of Four Noble Truths. And your tradition mainly relying on Buddha's quotation or reason, then they say Buddha's quotation. Then immediately I felt the Dharmakirti's, because of Pramana Vartika Karika, the 4 chapters, second chapter about Four Noble Truths, these things, each point reasoning. So therefore, the Sanskrit tradition is some kind of supplementary of basic Buddhist teaching. That is Pali tradition.
Excuse me,
So,
sir.
so now you use the word Vayana Hinayana. Now this should be last. In future, should not use that.
At some point of time, like in our lives, we have to lose our loved ones. So how do we overcome that trauma?
When my sort of beloved, my teacher, from whom I received Bhikshu vow. So when he was there, I always feel something like solid rock I can lean. When my teacher passed away, I feel very sad. But then, oh, beautiful, the small bird, that also act of compassion. You know, in human,
It is in the calendar.
In human palm hand, you see, giving some seed to that beautiful bird without fear and enjoy. That's very good. Very good. Oh, beautiful. I think too big. Okay. So I think affection, love, even animal, very much appreciate. Dogs, cats. Sometimes they are more honest. If you have some sort of different sort of what's the reason feeding them, they little bit remain distant. When you feeding them sincerely, then they appreciate, isn't it? So in any way, you see your question. When you see that situation happen, then I feel very sad. But now he already passed. Passed away. You see, my worry, no use. One Shantadeva, one Nalendra master, you see, mentioned, if something happened, tragic situation happened, then analyze. If there is way to overcome that suffering, then no use, too much worry, make effort. If that sadness thing, no way to overcome, then no use to worry. Quite practical. So I practice that, and instead of worry, the sadness transform reason for inner strength. Now, my sort of like a solid rock, no longer. Now I must work hard. I must fulfill the wishes of my late Guru. So instead of sadness, you see, it brings more inner strength, determination. So you should think that way. Your dear one, now no longer there. Now instead of worry, you must fulfill their wish. So you should lead your life meaningful. Meaningful means not only your own sort of pleasant life, but serving other people. Share your own sort of happiness, joyfulness to more people. That's a meaningful life. I believe that. Clear?
So I'm feeling very lucky that today I'm standing in your presence, because I've tried meeting you a lot of time, but I was unfortunate. So I will straight come to the question. I want to ask, you lost your motherland. So instead of choosing rebellion, you chose a way of non-violence. So how do you manage to be so humble? I mean, how do you manage to be so calm? Because it seems very difficult for us to stay calm in such situation. Out of all the hardships, you have managed to be so calm. I just need an answer on this.
As I mentioned before, firstly, I learned practice of compassion from my mother. I'm following my mother, not my father. Then, as a Buddhist monk, and also as a student of Nalanda Master, you see, they explain very forcefully through reason. Anger, hatred, no use. Now scientists also say that. I believe that. I convince that. So it is sort of human nature. Once you see some value and convince that, you must implement. So therefore, I implementing these things. The Chinese people, as I mentioned earlier, Chinese government, something different. But government, they are longevity, not forever. But people always remain forever. I think after next few centuries. Therefore, Chinese people, wonderful people, cultured people, hardworking. Sometimes I jokingly telling, Chinese seems to say more hardworking than Indian. India, I think too hot climate, so sometimes a little bit lazy. If may I say so. So therefore, and then as I mentioned earlier, you see, China now become the greatest Buddhist population. So there is negative things there, sad things there. Now still inside Tibet, a lot of suppression. And they create whole society full of fear. Very sad. But anger, no use. Respect them. They try to understand the reality. So many, the hardliners thinking is unrealistic. Long run, very harmful for China itself. Like that. Next.
His
Yes.
Holiness, my question is a very simple question, maybe which we all face, is
Yes, sir.
how you spoke about man being critical in nature. So how do we handle unhappy people, who are very unhappy about your own happiness?
Yes. There
my
are
question
people.
is- my
There
question-
are people
Just a minute,
who
baby.
who always say, too much sort of anxiety, too much sort of what's the worry. There are two things. One, due to their physical illness. In that case, we have to sort of treat medically. Another, physical, normal, but mentally extra sort of worry. Then reasoning, analyze. That's the only way. Just sort of some picnic, go holiday here and there, it is something like tranquilizer. For a short period, yes, less worry. But still, the problem is still there. So best thing is analyze the nature of the problem. How to overcome that problem. Thinking more line that way, then automatically the peace of mind eventually comes. Okay.
My question is that how to be happy in life?
I think, as I already mentioned, if you still have your mother still there, oh, that's very fortunate. I think you get a maximum sorrow, or say the happiness or joyfulness from your mother. And then you yourself. You are young. I usually used to making distinction. The generation of 20th century, generation of 21st century. We three here, we are generation of 20th century. Our century gone. And some of you also generation of 20th century. So now, the 20th century gone, 20th century becomes century of violence. Now you, 21st century generation, now you have the responsibility and you have the opportunity to create peaceful 21st century.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, this is now 2017, just the beginning of 21st century. There is real opportunity to create peaceful century, and in order to create peaceful century, we have to create compassionate century, as we already discussed. So then, this century will be happy century. So it is your responsibility, not my responsibility. We will go.
Thank you very much,
Thank
His
you.
Holiness.